What's up, everyone? Chris here from MTR Network, and so I'm doing a little something different today. So coming up in 2 weeks will be Infinity War, and then the week after that will basically be 10 years for the MCU. So on our podcast, the Character Corner podcast, we went ahead. My co-host Deepam, and I, we went through and we did 2 hours of just talking about the MCU, basically the formation, how the MCU and how Marvel Studios formed, like the troubles that Marvel was having up to the creation and the Merrill Lynch deal that kind of helped chug this along. Iron Man, the success of Iron Man, and everything else. We go from that all the way up through Black Panther, leading us up to Infinity War. So we did a whole Character Corner podcast on that. So I decided to shoot a little opening for that, kind of intro the podcast. So if you're interested in learning more about the MCU and how we got here, because I think that there's a little bit of revisionist history over how, like, a lot of people I think seem to assume that this was always going to happen and it was always going to work, and I think it's important to realize that it wasn't, and it kind of goes into why some other studios, and I don't just mean Warner Brothers and DCEU, but why just in general other studios are failing at creating cinematic universes. You've had the Ghostbusters one fall through, the Universal Monsters one has, the Dark Universe has fallen through. Apparently, it's like we kind of go into why that hasn't worked. So if that's something you want to listen to, stick around, listen to it. If you like hearing that, you want to hear more about this stuff, make sure you subscribe to the Character Corner podcast. Talk about it there. So stay tuned.
This year is going to be the 10-year anniversary of the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I really thought that, because I think a lot of people have asked us if to kind of go through like the status of the MCU and things like that, and what's going on with it, and how we got here. And we kind of done a little before in some of our Marvel character rights podcasts we've done. I think we've done 2 of them. But I think it's different to kind of sit down and really spend the time to focus on what Marvel Studios created with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. What all the films are involved in it, what kind of give a brief overview of them, the different phases, the 3 different phases, who's involved, how we got to this point, and just kind of break that down, because I think that when you look back at it, and I've seen some of these articles about it, like, oh yeah, of course it was going to happen. It was just they've done, it's been 10 years, and you think about all the stuff that Marvel hasn't done. It was like, it's taken them 10 years to get a Black Panther movie, and I'm like, you guys don't understand how incredible that is. Like, 10 years in the film industry is not a long time. Like, that is you are still newbies. And to put this into perspective, it's been 18 films in 10 years. By the time Infinity War comes out, should be actually no, I'm sorry. It'll be 19 films by the time Infinity War comes out. And at this point, I would say right now I've seen the number at 14.8 billion. It's over 15, and by the time Infinity War comes out, it'll be $16 billion. This makes it the highest grossing film franchise of all time. And I don't think it's close. In 10 years. Like, this is going to be something that 20 years from now, people are going to go back and study what Marvel Studios did. Because it is abnormal, and you're seeing this in terms of other studios trying to copy it. And here's the thing. Like, to be fair, Marvel Studios has been around for longer than 10 years. I'm talking about when they just started producing and making their own films. That's only been 10 years.
So prior to that, they were basically co-producing or co-branding with New Line, with the 7-year deal with Fox, with Sony to promote their other properties. But as a standalone, we make movies studio, 10 years what we're talking.
Yeah. Started as Marvel Films. I think it was between, what were the years on that? Let me see. The years were, it was 3 years. It was Marvel Films at first, from 1993 to 1996. They became Marvel Studios. in 1996, and this is when they started licensing out their films and produced by other studios. So we got Blade. Blade was the first one under that. I believe that was with New Line, wasn't it? Was Blade with New Line? Blade with New Line, yeah. And then they did the X-Men deal. They had Daredevil, Elektra, Fantastic Four, and Spider-Man, Namor. And I remember we brought this up during our last time. Prime. He had Universal Studios. I completely always forget that they got Prime. I don't know why I forget that, but yeah. And that's how it went. To go back even further, up to this point, around this time, Marvel itself as a company was struggling.
Mm-hmm.
When was the bankruptcy? Was the bankruptcy 1996?
98.
98? Yeah.
Yeah.
They're facing bankruptcy. And they went into selling and licensing their films as basically a way to save Marvel. And other studios took advantage of them, which is why I kind of feel like, Marvel is getting that sweet, sweet revenge on all the other studios right now. Because they got taken advantage of.
I was wrong. You were right. It was 96. I apologize.
It was 96. Yeah.
And people say, "Oh no, that was restructuring bankruptcy." No. They laid off a third of their company.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was the idea that Marvel wouldn't exist. Talks existed about DC buying Marvel.
I remember this. Yep. My, how times have changed.
And it went wrong, and it went so wrong so fast.
Yeah.
Because things they tried out of that didn't work. They did they had a Marvel restaurant, Marvel Mania.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't go well.
When did they sell the Marvel character rights to Universal for Universal Studios? Because that's why you have those aging old Marvel rides in the Marvel section of Universal Studios in Florida. Have you ever been there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that stuff has not been updated or aged or aged well in.
I haven't been there since it opened originally, and the Hulk roller coaster was the most fun thing in the world to I think a 13-year-old me.
It's still fun. Trust me. I went there a couple years ago. It's still fun. Don't get me wrong. The Hulk thing is still fun.
But right, no, this is the time where the rights are getting sold left and right. Blade made $70 million at the box office.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel made $25,000 off of that.
Oh yeah, Marvel makes no money. Makes no money off of those movies. They were making money They were making more money off of the licensing of the commercial products, the merchandising. That's where they made their money, because they made absolutely no. And you know what? You're right. For Blade, it was for small things like Blade. Blade did all right. All right, cool. You can kind of live with that. But then in 2000, when the X-Men dropped, and then 2002, when you got Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man movie, I think Spider-Man's probably the one that really did it to him. Because Spider-Man...
Okay, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, because in Spider-Man... how much money did Spider-Man make? Hold on, let me see the Spider-Man film franchises. Cause I want to see how much these films grossed. Let me see. Come on, you guys had to have it here. You got grosses. Yeah, here we go. Spider-Man made $821 million. Spider-Man 2 made $783 million. Spider-Man 3 is still the highest grossing worldwide Spider-Man film at $890 million. I don't remember it. I didn't look up looking up the articles that say this, but if you can find them where they tell you how much money Marvel made off of those films, and you feel embarrassed for Marvel.
Yeah,
that's what it did it for them, because it's you're not making any money off of these films. You're seeing everybody else profit off of, and you're sitting there going, you have a studio, you have Marvel Studios, you have Marvel Films, later on Marvel Studios, you have this there, and you're literally going, everybody's making money off of this shit but us. Because here's the thing, even with X-Men didn't really hit them that much either, because X-Men again, not too bad because the budget was only $75 million. They made just under $300 million. So you're like, oh, okay, I can live with that maybe. But then when you get a film franchise in the Spider-Man that comes out 2 years later that almost makes $1 billion.
That redefines superhero movies.
And you're going, and again, this is also why Marvel's been able to produce those films. That's why you have the Marvel name in front of them. I know we'll get into Kevin Feige later, but he was one of the assistant producers on the X-Men franchise. He studied under he was an assistant to Donner. Was Laura or Lauren Donner? I can't remember her name.
Laura Donner.
Laura Donner.
I think.
Donner. Yeah. Yeah, Lauren Donner. Lauren Schuler Donner. He assistant to her. He was associate producer on the first X-Men films. At this time, Ari Arid was also working. I can't remember where his position was in Marvel Studios, but he was part of Marvel Studios. So, like, Marvel Studios did have a hand in these films, but they were still the properties and the distribution belonged to those other studios. They belonged to Sony. At that point,
it was still Marvel Films.
No, because the Marvel Films ended at 96.
Marvel Studios launched officially in 2005 behind the Merrill Lynch deal.
I think that they were there before. They just weren't. Yeah, no, they were. They were there before. They just weren't. They weren't producing their own films. The Merrill Lynch deal was to allow them to produce their own films, because that's what they happened. It's like they were like, "Fuck! Why is everybody making these own films? We have a studio, but their studio is not, not doing any. They're not actually producing this film. So technically, Blade, I believe, is Blade was the first film that was licensed and produced under Marvel Studios, but not distributed by them. They didn't get money off of it. The money went to New Line. Same thing with X-Men and things like that. That's why you had, Kevin Feige involved in X-Men and stuff like that, but they didn't have the creative say in it that the main studios did. So they were there, but I think the Marvel Studios that we think of today is the one that came, like you said, 2005 with the Merrill Lynch deal, where they were like, fuck this shit. Everybody's
it wasn't even that. It was crazy because there's a talent agent named David Maisel who's actually thanked in the title card of Age of Ultron. And in 2003, he went to Marvel and said, hey, since your best assets why give away your best assets when you can make money off of them? But you got to remember, this is a company coming off of bankruptcy, a company that had just recently turned the corner back into profitability. Mm-hmm. So the idea of taking that risk didn't really have traction. So for 2 years, Maisel kept pushing this idea, this theory that we can do this.
There was this idea.
Well, I'm serious. Well, in 2005,
right.
The board said, let's give the plan a shot. 7-year, $525 million financing deal with Merrill Lynch would launch Marvel Studios so they could produce and create their own movies. To get that money, though, they had to put up collateral. The properties they put up as collateral: Captain America, the Avengers, Nick Fury, Black Panther, Ant-Man, Cloak and Dagger, Doctor Strange, Hawkeye, Power Pack, and Shang-Chi. Mm-hmm. If this failed, Merrill Lynch would own all 10 of those characters.
Mm-hmm.
Another wrench came in, though. The problem was Iron Man was still owned by New Line. But 2 months after the deal was announced, Marvel got the rights back because they expired. Mm-hmm. But because Iron Man wasn't part of the financing deal, they couldn't use that money to make Iron Man. So they took their own money and did it themselves. So when people try to say, oh, no, the Marvel Studios deal was a big deal. And no. Iron Man happened because Marvel said, fuck it, we'll do it ourselves.
Right? Like, when you
they couldn't touch the 525 legally because Iron Man was not part of that deal.
Here's the crazy thing about this. When you think about, and we'll get into more of the movies involved in these phases, when you look at it, they're actually kind of sometimes a meta commentary on how Marvel Studios came about. You know,
it's a Marvel. The Marvel Studio story is a Marvel story. It's crazy.
It's there was this idea that we could take these individuals and make something special to fuck it. I'll do it myself. Like all of this stuff.
Sorry.
It just like it is truly fucking incredible.
People think that we exaggerate. We tell you that the true story behind Marvel Cinematic Universe is crazier than you could ever believe. The story I just told you is they put up 10 properties to get financing for a studio. That the first people from that studio could not use the money that they raised. Bravo. It is the luckiest, and that's the thing that people don't get. People say, why can't DC do this? Why can't the Universal Monsters do this? Why can't Pacific Rim, hopefully, dear God, do this with Godzilla? Oh my God, let me see Jaeger punch Godzilla in the face, please. You have to understand the corner Marvel was in. They were watching their IP make other people millions of dollars.
Yo, they were scrawny ass Steve Rogers when he was getting beat up in that corner.
Like bully.
They were getting beat up by a bully going, I can do this all day. Like that is what Marvel Studios was. And but to be serious, you're absolutely right. That I think that it really is, it's almost unfair to the other studios, because you have to understand that I think that we make what Marvel did seem so easy that we don't really, you have to go into the struggles and the difficulty they had to do this to show that, listen, like, you know, they had their backs against the wall. No other studio has really been in that position, have to do that, where, you know, you're literally betting the farm. If this doesn't work, you guys, you know, WB makes a Captain America movie. You know, Captain America presented by Warner Brothers. Like, this is where they were at. And no other studio, from WB and DC to, you know, Sony with the Spider-Man and X-Men. Like, here's the thing. Without the MCU and without what Marvel Studios did, I don't think you see the struggles that Warner Brothers. Well, you might see the struggles, but I don't think it's as pronounced as what we see now. Like, people don't go over it, aren't going, what is Warner Brothers doing right now? Because people have just been like, oh, they flopped another film. Okay, whatever. And they go about their business. Nope. Now you see the success and everybody goes, well, why didn't you just do that? And it's like, well, you kind of need to go through bankruptcy. You need to put up all your characters for collateral. And then literally, you have to get a group of individuals that you bring them together. It's literally the Avengers story. You bring them together and they just work. From Mazel coming out with the idea first to Kevin promoting Kevin Feige up from where he came from. Because I think the biggest thing that people forget about Kevin Feige is a movie guy. He is a nerd. He is a complete fucking nerd. But this is a guy who went to, I can't remember what school. It was like California School of Cinematic School or something like that. He had applied for that school for 5 fucking times and got rejected 5 times. Got in on the 6th try. Like, this is a man who wanted to do this, but he is a film guy. He studied under Donner. You know, this is a man who's been involved in the film industry and knows how this works. Just so happens that he also is a huge fucking Marvel nerd. The chances of finding a person like that is hard, man. That has the skill to understand what they're doing as a producer and came up with, like I said, the school he went to was a school that I think that had George Lucas and other people went to for the school. So it's like he went to a great school. Then he's an assistant under Donner, who then puts him on to X-Men. And he's the reason why you find out that why did Wolverine look like Wolverine in that first X-Men movie? Feige. You know? And so when you see this and you see the struggle and how he got up there, so you get him, and we're going to get into more movies later, but then when you get Favreau, then you get, you take the chance on Robert Downey Jr. Like, yes, Robert Downey Jr. was on his way back up, but he had not had a blockbuster since coming back. I mean, to the point of, I think in 2000, it it was around the time, it was a little bit before he got cast. You know, he had to get somebody else to pay his insurance. I think it was Mel Gibson paid his insurance for him, right? Because he was an uninsurable actor. And this is the guy you went after to lead your franchise. This is the guy like, everything fell into place here. And at any moment, if they had gotten the wrong person in there, I mean, even to the point of, and we talk shit about Ike Perlmutter all the time. Ike is the one that backed Mizell's plan and also supported Kevin Feige getting that, because Eric left. He wasn't sure about it. He left, because Ike didn't back him on this one. So as much as we give shit for, you know, Ike Perlmutter, and I understand that why we give him shit.
He earned it.
He definitely has earned it. He also does have a role in how we got here. I mean, it's just like, it feels like the luckiest shit ever. Like, this got started off of determination and at some points just pure fucking luck. Pure fucking luck. You know? And I think that those circumstances are hard for any studio to back up. I think it's hard. So, right. Yeah. So, yeah, I just, man, it's a lot. It's definitely a fucking lot. Let's see. So we talked about the 10 films in 2005 when they decided to produce their own. They also got Black Widow back because Black Widow was over at Lionsgate.
Yep.
And Lionsgate Entertainment dropped, didn't go to production, so the rights for that dropped in there.
Everything just broke their way because things were timed out.
Yeah.
I always say that the idea came in 2003 and they decided to do it in 2005. I think the way it was, of course, it was hesitance. Of course, it was worry. But part of it was also lining it up so where once you've announced, you've given these people who own the rights to other characters no time to mobilize their own production.
Mm-hmm.
Because the rule is if you have it in your production by the time it expires, the rights revert. And like we said, the Iron Man rights reverted 2 months after the announcement. There's not enough time to get a production up and running.
Right.
Because to have a production legally up and running, you have to have filed scripts, you have to file shooting plans. Like, production is a thing. And there was no way for them to allow themselves to be undercut.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to see if there's anything else I want to get into before we get into these phases. Yeah, at this point, Feige is now. So Feige became president of production of Marvel Studios in 2007. He was second in command in 2000, and yeah, we've seen how that's worked out since then. So want to start going through the phases, and we can talk about this movies and how we got here, and kind of the overall plots and things like that, and how we can start adding them into Infinity War. I think it's about time to start doing that. We'll do this stuff outside of the movies separately. We'll still mention those and bring those in, but we'll handle those a little separately. Let me see, what am I looking for here? Obviously the first one, phase one, was Iron Man, and again, I'd like to go back and just say, Iron Man was not it was not a done deal. It was not like, oh yeah, that's gonna be a hit. Like, I know back when this came out, because so this is, you know, when they first announced they were doing Iron Man, I remember the general reaction going, "You fucking Iron Man?"
It was why.
Why are you doing Iron Man? Why are you doing Iron Man? You're gonna do the Avengers? Okay, I guess. Okay. You know, they got, you know.
You're only doing the Avengers because you can't do X-Men.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. This is because they sold all their rights and they don't have anything. Good luck, Marvel. Yeah. That's what that was. So when people go, oh, yeah, I mean, they started with Iron Man. It was just great. It was going to be great. No, and also like, they got Jon Favreau, who people like, but at the same time, it's like, oh yeah, you're gonna get him to do this. All right,
That's not fair. I think Jon Favreau was a get for them. I think
no, it was
the guy did swing. Like Jon Favreau was a get. Like,
no,
but you're right. Like, I think that while Favreau was a get, Downey Jr. was a place where, like, I don't know.
Well,
man.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like this whole entire thing. It was just like, it wasn't that people were like saying that it could be bad. It was just like, it was more like I don't know, guys. Like, it was one of those type of deals. It was just like, sure, okay. Like, this idea that somehow it was going to blow the roof off like it does now. Like, now, I was not in, because I believe they did it. When was the San Diego Comic-Con thing for them? When they debuted, I want to say it was 2007. Because I remember watching the leaked San Diego Comic. This is how you knew that Marvel Studios hadn't gotten to where they are now. There was leaked footage from their panel for Iron Man. It was actually pretty good too. You could see most of it, right? Not like today where you gotta get the shaky cam and people got if they get anything from the Marvel panel, you're lucky. But like most of the times, it's like you're not trying to get kicked out because they got security out there. So you saw it and people were just like, I mean, okay. I mean, it looks like Iron Man. That's like seriously. My first reaction was, well, at least it looks like Iron Man. Because at this point, I'm not used to, particularly somebody like Iron. I wasn't used to them actually going the way they would go, and I'm like, oh well, Robert Downey Jr. They did get it. They got an alcoholic playboy to play Tony Stark, so at least they cast right, But we're still like, I don't know how this is gonna work out, and the movie was a fucking hit.
Yo, it was something that I don't think we thought was really possible, because one, yes, Downey Jr. and Favreau were able to encapsulate what Tony Stark is, who Tony Stark is, and kind of bring his world to the big screen, but they also, in a way, redefined the character. They pushed Tony closer to Robert Downey Jr., and they found that medium that used Downey's own natural charisma with the appeal of the futurist, the appeal of the man who's on the cutting edge, and they made a movie out of it. And because they didn't have to worry about major story beats or redefining the character, they had to massage the edges. The storyboards they worked from are the comic books. Mm-hmm. And that's what they did. They said, let's just take what Stan and Jack did and put it on the big screen and see what people react to it.
It's amazing that nobody before them thought this, right? It's like, well, we have the story already. It's crazy.
The story's only stood the test of time, been retold and resold millions of times across the world. Why would we think it would translate to a larger stage? I don't know. Because we're idiots.
So honestly, here's the thing. When I did my review for Tomb Raider, it's one of the biggest problems I have with Tomb Raider. It's not bad, but I couldn't help but think, it's like, guys, you have the story already and it's loved. Just take that. Yes, you got to make some changes here and there, and I always hear people say, well, the MCU makes changes and Marvel makes changes. Like, yeah, but not as many as you think. And even the quote-unquote big ones are either done because of, and we'll get to this later on, something's a little racist, or they fit more into the story they're telling in the MCU, but they still keep the core and the themes of that story. So the core is there. Like, that's what you have to do. And it's like, they just didn't get it. Like, I remember when I saw the first like full trailer, because I saw the leaked trailer for Iron Man, from San Diego Comic-Con. You could barely see anything. But then I remember, I think it was like September, October, they released the first actual trailer for Iron Man. And I brought this up when I was talking about the Venom trailer and how bad the Venom trailer is. I was like, in the full actual release video trailer for Iron Man, the first one, you see all three Mark suits. You see the Mark 1, Mark 2, and Mark 3. You see him flying in the suit. Because they basically telling you, it's like, hey guys, we're actually doing this. So when you get that scene of him flying with 2 F-22s on the side of him, you're like, wait a minute. That's Iron Man. And that's when you kind of sit up in your seat going, hey, what's the studio again? What, Marvel's doing this? Because that looks like Iron Man. Like, they actually, like, first with the Mark 1 suit, you're like, wait a minute, they actually got the Mark 1 suit. Hold up. Who are these people? What are they doing? That's the arc. Like, you know, this is kind of weird. And I'll say this, like, to me, Phase 1 felt like, and as we get into more of the movies, Phase 1 felt like introducing us to all these characters. That's what it was, right? Introducing us to all these characters and setting us up for, you know, the Avengers and getting to this point. But they also still followed some story beats, because up until, for the first 2 films, Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk, Eric still had producer credits on them. And I still see some story beats that kind of reminded me of some of the things that plagued early superhero films, which I can honestly say across the board, from whether I like the films or not, from DC or Sony or not, and even Fox, they don't do this anymore. And Iron Man did it. It's one thing I always hate, where they have the depower the hero. Mm-hmm. And so they did it in this film too, where they had the because you know, Iron Man's in here, and he has to end up he gets Stain, and it kind of takes his old arc reactor, and so he has to use the one he got from the Mark 1, so it's not power, so he's not at full power when he fights the villain. This is a trope that happens in every fucking, like, just about every fucking, like, comic movie before this time. It still felt like, I can't believe they did it. And when you think about the limited stuff they were working with, like, they had to finance this film on their own. What was the budget on Iron Man? Budget on Iron Man was $140 million. They were still putting some money behind this. They had to finance this film all by themselves. Like, you can understand why they had to kind of do some things in the story to do this, but it still felt different. So while I still had those story beats from things before, it felt different. Because I remember the first time I saw the X-Men film from 2000. And I, like, again, it was the X-Men on screen. I was happy. But at the same time, I was like, man, they barely use their powers. Like, I don't know, man. It's just they gave them black leather costumes. Like, it's the X-Men, yeah, but I mean, it's better than what we got before. You know, it was kind of like how I felt with Tomb Raider, where it's like, well, I mean, it's better than what we could have expected. We could have gotten that Gen X, Generation Next, whatever the fuck that fucking TV movie was. That was fucking god awful. You know, it could have been that. So, but Iron Man, like, they did it. They made Iron Man. And you're watching the film, you're excited, but then you hear them say, well, you got to see after the credits. Where I got to see after the credits? To stay after the credits, there's an after credit scene. You got to see the after credit scene. All right, cool, whatever this. And that's when you see Sam Jackson and Nick Fury wanting to talk to Tony Stark about the Avengers initiative. And you lose your fucking mind. Because you're, wait a minute, you had known before.
You get dropped all throughout. Like, you get Phil Coulson. Right. You get Phil Coulson dropping S.H.I.E.L.D. references the whole time. There's the hints that felt like that they were the winks and the nods to us. Like Wolverine and Canadian. Like, it felt like those were nerd winks. Like, yeah, there could be a larger world, but, you know, hey, this is for you guys. Mm-hmm. But to have Sam Jackson appear, to bring Sam Jackson for a stinger and to have him say the words Avengers Initiative, mm-hmm. It was more than a wink and a nod to the fans. It was there's a fucking plan here. And if this movie had bombed, it would have just been great fodder for what ifs for the rest of our lives. Mm-hmm. But it didn't bomb.
It made $500 million.
And it's not fodder for what ifs. Yeah. It's 10 years later.
Yeah. Also, people forget, also that year, a month later, came The Incredible Hulk. Now, I think this is a film that gets... How do you feel about The Incredible Hulk?
The Nord one?
Yeah. You said what? Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. It's good.
Yeah, I think this film got judged because people... So Marvel did a weird thing with The Incredible Hulk. They didn't they kind of did a soft reboot because you got to remember the Ang Lee Hulk film, Babyface Hulk, as I like to call it. The Babyface Hulk film came out in 2003, I believe. So they got and the Hulk rights are still very weird. Marvel can use the Hulk, but Universal retains the right of first refusal to distribute, which is why you won't anytime soon see a Hulk film, because at this point, why would any studio refuse to distribute a Marvel Studios?
Also, I think the Norton Hulk film kind of pointed out to me the problems of doing the Hulk.
Yeah.
You've got the guy running from the thing we want to see the entire time.
Right.
So it's just not entertaining to watch someone fight the titular character internally. So I think that the niche they found with the Hulk, where he plays this very adaptable, growing, because we watch the Hulk, the character evolve to being able to speak, to be able to he's becoming more of a person. And I think that's been good for us as the audience and for the development of the Hulk, that he's been able to have a through line through these movies that you can easily trace without having to say, here's Hulk 2 and all the pressure that comes with that.
Right. And so I'm with you. I think The Incredible Hulk gets a lot of unnecessary. I think it's a way better film than people will give it credit for. One, it redefined the Hulk, and it did a soft reboot. So the Ang Lee Hulk film kind of ends with Bruce Banner out of the United States and having problems after having fought, I think, in New York and things like that. The Incredible Hulk kind of takes over from there, but isn't related. And I think that's what threw people off. I think if they had done a clean slate reboot, it might have been reviewed better. But I kept seeing, I remember those reviews, people kept trying to relate it to the Babyface Hulk film. And even then, people for the longest time, I think they've stopped doing this, but for at least the first two phases, people kept bringing up that first Hulk film as a Marvel Studios film, at least produced film in the MCU, and it wasn't. And I think it's because of the way they did this. There were also some production problems, like Ed Norton apparently is an asshole and just wants a lot of work. And he was difficult to work with, wanted to take over stuff, and yeah. But it gave us the thing I saw in that film is, one, again, for that time, the CG was pretty fucking amazing, and we had a CG fight between Abomination and the Hulk, and that was 2008. The DCEU's CG is on par with the Incredible Hulk from 2008, guys.
That's very fair. I rewatched that recently. That's, you know what, the Incredible Hulk, it holds up okay because it was then.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I'm being very generous here to say that, because I think when you look at the time it was put out, it's not bad. And you got some really classic moments, like the moment of them dropping a strapped in Bruce Banner to a gurney, dropping him out of the helicopter to have him turn. That's straight out of the comics. Like, again, Marvel Studios stayed with doing things straight out of the comic books to give you this feel. And I mean, they brought into a lot of different things that we haven't. I mean, they brought in Thunderbolt Ross. We got Ross. We got. They haven't really come back to this yet. I would love for them to. They brought in what's the actual name of the guy who plays the leader? I can't remember his character's normal name is, but they basically hinted at the leader being brought in there. They gave us the Abomination. Like it was actually. It's actually a pretty good movie. Like, I think it gets unnecessary hate, but I actually like The Incredible Hulk. I think it was a pretty good film. We then move in to Iron Man 2. Iron Man 2 is another one of those films I think is on the people's lower tier of Marvel Cinematic Universe films, MCU films. I don't have too much. Again, I think the worst Marvel films are still better than most other comic book films we've ever gotten. So, right, while not my favorite, once again, it deals with different things. It deals with, you said what?
I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. So it introduces us to Black Widow. We have our first appearance of Scarlett Johansson as Natasha Romanoff, We don't find out about that until the end of the movie. We get we also had a change in Rhodey because Terrence Howard played him. And I did not know this when I was doing the research. I did not know that Terrence Howard actually made more money in that film than Robert Downey Jr. did in Iron Man.
Oh yeah,
he was the big draw. He was the big money, and apparently he was difficult to work with too. And John Favreau didn't like working with him, and was like, "Yeah, we don't need to pay him more than we paying Robert Downey Jr. So pay him less." And there were problems with the pay, so they replaced him. They replaced him with Don Cheadle, and yeah. So we got Don Cheadle as, and he actually put on the suit this movie as War Machine. You know, and like I said, we had Whiplash. Again, I get why people didn't like this film. I liked it for just.
I think the film was just it was a weird script. I think that they didn't use Rourke as much as they could have or should have.
Right.
I think it was kind of sequelitis. Like we've seen that problem in the past with superhero movies in general.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
where
absolutely.
The sequel stumbles because they're trying to recreate the thing that got them there, but at the same time differentiate it. So this one, you had another armored villain, and you kind of went that route. And I think audiences were happy with it, but we didn't know that more was possible. So I think hindsight's been very cruel to Iron Man 2. But at the time, it was fine. It wasn't like no one walked out being like, "Well, Marvel's fucking done."
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Like I said, I mean, and we got some cool shit. I mean, that the suitcase suit for Iron Man.
No,
that was pretty fucking dope. I'm sorry.
Sam Rockwell, Justin Hammer.
Yeah, oh man, yeah.
Justin Hammer was fun as shit.
Yeah. I love it. That scene where War Machine is gonna. I can't remember what they called it. But Justin Hammer put that shit in his suit, and he was like, "I'm gonna use this," and it didn't fucking work.
Oh, the ex-wife.
Yeah, the ex-wife. Oh, that shit was great. Oh man. So then we got back into adding in. So 2011, we had the two last members of, you know, the core group of Avengers. Because remember,
Trinity.
Yeah, really, if you think about it,
the Marvel Trinity.
Yeah,
the Soldier, the Prince, the Knight.
Mm-hmm.
The big three.
So we got Thor and Captain America here. And so I also want to point out that Marvel did something great. Because if you look at the cover of Avengers #1, it's all these characters. They replaced Hank and Janet with Hawkeye and Black Widow. But other than that, you got the big four. You got Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, the big three. Iron Man, and Hulk. So big four in here. So Thor takes us to Asgard. Kenneth Branagh. And again, I think, again, for what it was, Thor's another one of those characters where you're just like, I guess we're going to do Thor. I don't know how we're going to do Thor, but they say they're going to do Thor. I mean, at this point, I still don't think people are really sold on the MCU at this point, but we're interested, right? We're like, okay, we'll see where they're doing. We'll see where they're doing. And they give us Thor. And they give us Chris Hemsworth as Thor. Now, and I'll bring this up more when we talk about the Avengers, but if you have not watched Cabin in the Woods and watched it with the director's cut with the director's commentary, I believe it's what's the guy's name who
Drew Goddard?
Drew Goddard and it's Joss Whedon talking about this, but Chris Hemsworth is in that film, and I don't know when they recorded I think they recorded it after he'd been cast for Thor. But they were talking about him like before, because they cast him, and I think they shot that film way before he had ever been cast. And so when he came in to do the audition for the character in Cabin in the Woods, Josh Whedon was like, "That's Captain America right there." Like that's Captain America. Like he was like a month later, he went out and he auditioned for Thor, and he got Thor. Like he knew he's gonna be one of those characters. He's gonna be one of these characters. That's what you got to get. And yeah, so they got this guy Chris Hemsworth as Thor. You get us Anthony fucking Hopkins. Like that's the other thing too. I think that started happening with the MCU is they started getting some big name actors. not in the title roles, but in supporting roles. And you're like, huh? You got Sir Anthony Hopkins. It's fucking Odin, and you're like, fuck, he looks like Odin though. You give him one
Cap's boss in Captain America was Tommy Lee Jones.
Mm-hmm. Like,
but yeah, I think Thor was. People again malign the Thor films, particularly. Well, not so much Thor 1 as Thor 2, but Thor 1 for me, it was a Thor movie you had to have. You have to tell the origin, and you have to tell about the needing to be humbled by coming to Earth. That's the Thor story, kind of the requisite Thor story. That's the thing about all three of the ones of Phase 1. They felt like the movie that you have to tell the rest.
They're all other than the Incredible Hulk. They're all the origin stories of the characters, and they follow them pretty fucking well.
And not even origin stories for the characters, the origin stories for the universe.
Yeah.
Because Tony's dad ties into Cap, and Cap's Tesseract ties into Thor. And so they all kind of feed each other. And then Thor has him trying to steal back his hammer and getting put down by Hawkeye.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they make all these pieces matter. And they all. So my favorite example, and one of my favorite things that Stan and Jack ever did, was they put Fantastic Four. They put the Baxter Building in the background of a Spider-Man panel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this all felt like. It felt like, oh shit, this isn't actually a call to Thor, but that Tesseract had an Odin in the flashback.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit, Captain America's dad, the guy working with Captain America, his last name is Stark. He's got to be Tony's dad.
Mm-hmm. And they were doing the same thing with the after credit scene. So I believe the after credit scene of the Incredible Hulk had Tony showing up talking to Ross. Mm-hmm. Iron Man 2. What did Iron Man 2 after credit scene was? That was I can't remember what that one was.
I think that was him saying that it was when he talks about all the hot spots around the globe.
Yes.
And he says, about this team, he says, you're not fit for the team. We want you to consult.
Right, because then they did the consultant for Thor had the after credit scene with Selvig, Nick Fury showing Selvig the Tesseract. So when we get the Tesseract for the first time was in Thor in the after credit scene there.
No.
I thought it was.
Was Thor for Captain America?
Yeah, Thor was before Captain America.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So we got that, and then what happened? Then we get the Tesseract actually being a part of Captain America, where again in unconventional casting, they cast Chris Evans.
Well,
and
also they subtitled it the first Avenger.
The first Avenger, yes. So again, everybody was waiting to see who they're going to cast for Captain America. Who's going to be Cap? Because you need to have Cap to do Avengers. So who's going to be Cap? And they went and got a guy who was best known for being Johnny Storm in the failed Fantastic Four films. But here's the thing. He was good in those films.
No, he was good in The Losers.
He was good. He was good in everything. I can't remember when. I'm trying to see now when he did that film. When did he do Scott? When did Scott Pilgrim come out?
Ooh.
Because he was good in Scott Pilgrim, and I was watching. I was like, "Fuck!" I think Scott Pilgrim came out. I know what Scott Pilgrim came out the year before. So Scott Pilgrim came out the year before, and he's in Scott Pilgrim. And I'm like, I don't know, guys. I think Chris Evans can actually act. I think he can actually do this. He might be able to pull it off.
Wait, now I'm Lucas Lee. Yep, you're right.
Yeah, I gotta watch Scott Pilgrim again. That's
a great movie.
That's a fucking great. Because you know what? You know who else is in it? Brandon Roth.
Oh, Brandon Roth. Yeah. Basically playing Superman.
Yeah, vegan Superman. But yeah, you're like, I don't know, man. They're gonna get this guy who played Johnny Storm as Human Torch in those shitty ass Fantastic Four films. I mean, I guess. And they did it. But then they also did some other things too. Like they did the one thing where they started playing. They started innovating technology, right? Started doing things like, well, actually, I think we're getting ahead of ourselves because there is one thing that happened. I think definitely helped here. When did Disney buy Marvel?
I do believe. Let me make sure. I don't want to lie to you. Disney purchasing Marvel was,
Because I want to say it was in phase 1.
I want to say it was 2008.
Yeah, I think so too. So, Disney had bought Marvel. So once again, now you're getting Marvel money behind some things.
Oh, no, it was 2010, excuse me.
2010. But they did this thing where they basically shrunk down Chris Evans' body and had his head. So he had this large ass head on the small ass body, but it didn't look too weird, right? And you have him as as skinny Steve Rogers, and it's a scene that I feel like they've used in almost every film with him doing I can do this all day. They did it in Civil War, and even a little bit you kind of feel he wants to say it, but he's kind of a little focused too much when he's trying to go up against Thanos right now. Where you get this story of this guy who's got untold bravery and heart, but just doesn't have the body to live up to that. And you introduce us to some gems here. We get Sebastian Stan as Bucky, which comes back to pay off huge later on. Haley Atwell as Peggy Carter. It's turned into 2 seasons of Agent Carter, which should have been way longer because she's just great as that. Like you said, they gave us Tommy Lee Jones as in this movie. You got what was my name who played let's call him Agent Smith, who played
Hugo Weaving.
Hugo Weaving as the Red Skull, who looked like the Red Skull.
Which is crazy. Like the idea that the day that we have to celebrate how much he looked like the Red Skull is insane.
Yeah, and it's just. I always say people say, "Oh, wow, Captain America: The First Avenger wasn't that great." And again, the reviews on those films were okay, were average. But I'm gonna tell you something like that. To me, Captain America: The First Avenger is when I was like, "Yo, they're gonna do it."
So that's my favorite Phase 1 movie.
Yes.
It captures the heart of Captain America. For me, it was proof that you can do full comic book on movie because there's nothing cynical or jaded about Captain America. He's wearing a fucking American flag, and he's going to go punch Nazis. And if you can do that and be 100% earnest in the year 2000 to pull that off, my God. And also, there's one more actor who you haven't mentioned in Captain America: The First Avenger, who graces our televisions every week now as Damien Dark. That would be Dum Dum Dugan, portrayed.
Oh, I forgot about that.
By Neil McDonough.
I forgot about that. I forgot he was Dum Dum in the film. I really
not just in the film, in all of his subsequent appearances. He was also in The Shield. He was also in Agent Carter.
I completely forgot about that. You're right. Yes.
It's like just hitting me as I was prepping for this. I was like, oh my God, that is amazing.
And we should also mention we got him in two of these films, maybe 3. Phil Coulson, Clark Gregg. Being a connective tissue throughout this. And so they were doing things that we hadn't really seen before in movies. We were getting this connective tissue between all these films, the things that were connecting us, weaving us between, building us up to this Avengers, not knowing what it got us in the theaters next week, because even if you didn't like one of the films, you still went to the next one because you were like, well, what are they going to do next? Who's going to show up next? What are they going to do next? It's like all the stuff that happened in our minds, like the stuff that we would do when you were like, well, what if Iron Man showed up in this film? What if this happened? The stuff that used to be things that we just said to ourselves that we knew would never happen were happening. Because, again, this is a time when we have had a ton of Superman films, a ton of Batman films, and neither of those characters had ever been in a film together. And so to us, we just felt like there was never going to happen. And this was the WB who had these characters who could have done it at any point. You're going, well, they're never going to fucking do it. So if they're not going to do it, there's no way that Marvel Studios are going to do it with the fucking Avengers, whatever. And then you get the end. And then the thing that really makes me like especially with Captain America, the First Avenger, they ended it the way you had to end it. You're like, so are they going to end this film? They're starting it in the past and during World War II. Are they going to end it with him crashing into the ice and being frozen? They're not going to do that shit. Oh, fuck, they did that shit. Oh, fuck, they did that.
Of course they did.
Even down to the fact of Bucky falling off the train, people going, oh, they might do the Winter Soldier. I remember telling people, like, no, they're not going to do the Winter Soldier. Are you fucking out of your mind? No, Bucky's dead. Bucky's dead. Wrong.
The only reason I was against, I was on the opposite side of the EU is because when he got taken by Hydra, he's the only one who woke up in a lab by himself. Mm-hmm. That was the first time he was altered by Zola. Mm. And the fact that they did that in the first fucking Avenger. Mm-hmm. Well, let's just take a second here and talk about Phase 1 and the variety of artists that they worked with behind the lens. So, first Avenger was notably the gentleman who, Jim Johnson, who brought you the Rocketeer.
Mm-hmm. And it felt like the Rocketeer.
And it felt like historical action. Kenneth Branagh to bring the Shakespearean weight and depth to the world of Thor. And then Jon Favreau on Iron Man, who's going to bring that kind of sleekness, that kind of flash you have to bring to Tony Stark. Mm-hmm. They found auteurs that worked with what they were going to do, who were able to take what the vision that Marvel already had and enhance it with their talents.
Oh, and also 2 names that we don't mention enough. Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. These are 2 of the writers that they first were writing on Captain America: The First Avenger. You see them again in Thor: The Dark World, The Winter Soldier, Civil War. I think they also wrote, they're writing Infinity War here. They work really, really well with the Russo brothers. Like, I remember when I did an interview with the Russo brothers for Civil War, he was talking about working with them, and he was like, he loves working with them. Like, here's the thing. When it was also around this time, was it around this time, or was it, I think it was around the next phase. So you're getting this talk about Marvel not working well with creators and things like that, and it wasn't true. It was, if you fit their plan, they'll work well with you. You know, that's what that is. So, yeah. So yeah, they got directors that fit the feel, and so the after credit scene of Captain America: The First Avenger.
It's honestly, like, I know we're going to talk about more of these movies, and it probably doesn't hold a distinction anymore. But when I talk about my favorite Marvel movies, First Avenger is always in the conversation. Mm-hmm. And people say, "Oh, corny as shit." That's fine. Guess what? Captain America, it's fucking corny. It's a corny concept.
Well, they went back. They went back to the World War II stuff, and so that has to be corny. They covered its origin, which is, I'm sorry, like, to me, I'm not going to fault a property for taking the feel of what their origins are. And the fact that they didn't run from their origins is why we got to where we are with the MCU, the Marvel Studios. They did not run from the and here's the thing, I think Feige's come out and said, it's like, listen, because I used to think this too. Feige was like, no, it's wrong. It's like, and I think this is how they got to go. He was like, listen, if Thor and Captain America First Avenger failed, we were still going forward. And that's another one of the mentalities I think that Marvel Studios has that no other studio has. We've seen it with all of them, Fox, Sony, and Warner Brothers. When they come across some adversity or something happens, they immediately want to run and change from their fucking plan. They don't stick to their guns. They see a shiny object over here. Oh, R-rated film made over here. So now Fox is going to do all these R-rated films over here now. Oh, X3 fucking failed. So now we're going to reboot, or not really reboot, or maybe we are going to reboot, or is it a reboot, or maybe it's a sequel with First Class. They don't really know because they want to play the fence. Sony, which made money off of Amazing Spider-Man 2, completely shuts down and completely went to shit because they were overspending on the film, production wise, marketing and production wise, that somehow $760 million wasn't fucking enough for them, so they completely shit the bed over the entire universe they were going to create. And then we see what happens with WB and DC. Nobody fucking knows what's going on there. I can't even get happy over news like Ava taking over the New Gods, because I don't know if she's going to stick around, because who the fuck knows what's going to happen at DC. It's like they don't stick, baby girl. Right, they don't stick to their fucking guns. Meanwhile, Marvel's stuck to their guns. There's only one film out of the ones they've announced that hasn't been on the schedule. That's Inhumans, and we know what happened with that. Outside of that, every other film they've announced, Everything they stuck to the schedule. Even down to the point when they add in Spider-Man later on down the line, they just took all their films, moved them down one date. It was that. It's a well-oiled machine that you do not see anywhere else.
More importantly, it's a machine with a very clear purpose. Translate that, pointing at the 4-color, to that, pointing to the big screen.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this machine does. We take the best of that, we make it fit to that. And there's no, oh, I want to tell a different. Cool, man. Get out of here. What? You got to go.
Right.
But I've got my own. That's cool. I want you to bring your flair to it, but that to that is the plan. But I want to do something. Then you have to leave, Edgar.
Also, starting at Iron Man 2, Kevin Feige, producer on all these films. Head honcho in charge.
Because by the time Iron Man 2 comes around, so Iron Man drops. I imagine they'd already started pre-pro on Hulk, but probably deep production on Hulk, which wasn't fully Marvel Studios anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time Iron Man 2 drops and he's a producer, they know it's viable, and they say, hey, those ideas you had, throw those out. They're too small. Think bigger now. And here we are.
So then Avengers comes.
Oh, nigga, look. Oh!
So first of all, going back to Captain America First Avenger, the after credits scene of First Avenger where Steve Rogers wakes up in the present day and Nick Fury's there, and I will never forget sitting in the theater when they kick off basically the mini teaser trailer for the Avengers, and it starts with Cap hitting the bag, and then Nick Fury basically telling him, "I'm trying to get you trying to save the world," and it kind of goes to the thing, and you get that first scene of Cap, Iron Man, and Thor sitting at the table together after Nick Fury says, "Gentlemen." And that's when you knew it was like, they're fucking doing it. They're fucking doing it, guys. They're gonna fucking do it. They made this film. I remember when Joss Whedon got announced. This is, again, Joss Whedon, I mean, look, we talk about Joss Whedon all the time, and I know his name is, not the name you want to talk about in recent memory. But, before all that, this is the guy who did Buffy. This is the guy who did Dollhouse. This is a guy who was known. He was known for having his films, his movies, his TV shows canceled by Fox. Firefly.
He was known to be a genre creator.
Right. This is a man who
not a
wrote
box office draw.
No, this is a man who wrote one of the best X-Men series, Astonishing X-Men. All right, but people were like, "Oh, I don't know about Joss Whedon as the director and writer. I don't know about this, guys." I remember the first screen test out of it had people saying, "Well, and not like screeners, like people like us, but like for execs, like they weren't sure if it was cinematic enough." And then the movie drops, and literally nothing was the same again. Like nothing was really the same after Iron Man. We just didn't know. But when Marvel's The Avengers dropped, though, it became the first film to ever cross $1 billion. The receipts.
Say it one more time, please.
The first superhero film to cross $1 billion. The receipts that weekend, like we talk about what we saw the receipts for, we've gotten there with Black Panther again, but it made over $200 million this opening weekend. It was disgusting. And at that point, like this is around the same this is the same year that Warner Brothers dropped The Dark Knight. So I believe The Dark Knight also crossed $1 billion as well later on. But immediately every other studio got shook. Because again, the Marvel Cinematic Universe was a risk. It was a huge risk that nobody up to that point people weren't seeing the payoff you would expect. Because again, going back to Thor, Iron Man 2, and Incredible Hulk, none of them made the money that you were seeing from things like, even so Iron Man 2 made $623 million. All right? None of those films were touching the Spider-Man films. They were doing better than the X-Men films, yeah. But nobody was touching Spider-Man money. Then the Avengers came out. The Avengers came out, and it's like, what the fuck did we just watch?
No, it's not what we just watched. It was, oh my god, they put the comic book on the movie.
The shots
from the opening scene at Pegasus, establishing the villain, to the destruction of the same project with the chase scene ending it, to Loki infiltrating a fucking opera, or excuse me, infiltrating a museum to opera in the background.
You were made to be ruled.
To the big free fight in the woods.
Dude,
Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America fought in the first hour of that movie. Fuck you if you don't like Avengers.
Dude, it was amazing how it showed up. Like, Thor shows up, takes Loki, knocks Iron Man back, jumps up and leave, and Iron Man's like, fuck this. Who the fuck is that? And I'll never forget, Steve's like, yo, we need a plan. I have a plan. Attack.
We need a plan of attack. I do have a plan. Attack.
And then Natasha going like, hey, you might want to set this one out. And then Cap jumping out of the fucking air. Like, it's just, like, this is a fucking film. Like, you're watching this shit going, I can't believe this shit is happening. You know? I can't believe this shit is happening. And I'm sorry. $1.5 billion fucking dollars. Every other studio was shook. How the fuck did Marvel fucking Studios come out of nowhere? Again, their last film didn't make that. What did First Avengers make? First Avengers made $370 million. The other studios are probably laughing. The other studios probably look at little Marvel Studios, $1.5 billion fucking dollars.
Because what Marvel understood, and what other studios still fail to get, people aren't coming back for the spectacle. They're coming back because they care about these characters, because Marvel made you care.
That's why you always hear people say, well, I don't care about such and such. I'm like, yeah, you do. You care enough not to say you don't care. Exactly. Oh, you care. You care. You care. Because even if you don't care about the character, you then want to see them fail. You want to see something happen to them. You not caring actually fucking cares. So that ended phase 1. Phase 1, 2012, May 4th, 2012, is when everyone realized, holy shit, we wasted 4 years. We just
sat here and spun our fucking tires and didn't see what they were building.
We lost a 3-1 lead in the finals. And that's really what happened. Because at this point, there was no stopping it. Look, I like Iron Man 3. I do. I enjoy Iron Man 3.
I like it a lot more having watched it after the first time.
Okay. I like Iron Man 3. I like the story they told in it with Tony. I think there's definitely a lot of things happening. I think Iron Man 3 and going into phase 2. Phase 2 to me, I think, is when they realized certain things. They started playing with some things. They also realized certain things worked and what didn't work. But Iron Man 3 probably shouldn't have made $1 billion. Iron Man 3 made $1 billion fucking dollars because the Avengers made $1 billion fucking dollars.
True. And say what you will about the Avengers in phase 1 and to this point, this is the story that's being told is that of Iron Man.
Oh yeah, the entire story.
That's why I like Iron Man 3, I think, more than a lot of people do, is because it is a lot of, I don't want to say franchise because no other franchise has gotten this far, but a lot of even comic books wouldn't deal with the fallout of a big event like that.
Yeah,
the fact that Marvel was like, we're going to tell you a 2-hour story with lots of bells and whistles, but it's basically Tony Stark experiencing PTSD.
Yeah, it's a Tony Stark PTSD story. Like, it is.
Like, that's as much of them taking a chance or a departure from quote-unquote formula as Winter Soldier or Civil War was.
Tony Stark almost died in Avengers. Remember, he's not a soldier. He didn't want to do this. Right? Remember what Cap says to him? It's like, it's the first time you ever lost a soldier in battle. It was because Phil Coulson got killed. Loki kills Phil Coulson in Avengers. Also, we have the Tesseract and we have Loki's staff, which we'll get into this later, but 2 Infinity Stones we find out later on. That'll come back later, guys.
So Marvel's like, we'll be back.
We'll deal with that. We'll be back with that. So you have Iron Man 3 with them do it. Iron Man 3 made $1.2 billion. So now studios are super panicked because now you're like, okay, no, fine. The Avengers was a fluke. The Avengers was a fluke. They brought the character together for one time. People had never seen it before. $1.5 billion. We're good. All right, fine. Iron Man 3 comes out. Well, whatever. $1.2 billion. They've now made $2.7 billion in 2 movies. Oh, shit. We're fucked. Oh, shit. There's no stopping this. Because Iron Man 3's reviews were, again, average.
I think also something Marvel learned was about their marketing that time, because
yes,
they gave us that scene with all the armors, and so even me as a nerd, I spent the entire movie waiting on that scene, and it's an Act 3 scene. Now, if you see things that aren't in Act 1 in a movie trailer, it's because Marvel's here to trick you. Like, if you watch the Avengers trailer, Infinity War trailer, which we're talking about later, at one point, Tony says, what's his name again? And Gamora says Thanos. And you don't realize that those are 2 different scenes.
Completely different scenes. I picked it up immediately. I'm like, he's not talking
that
to her.
That happened in space. Yeah. That happened.
Yeah.
These like, 2 were in the same room.
But you're absolutely right. I think Iron Man 3 taught them about marketing because they went too far. They were feeling themselves. And so they went too far with the marketing, gave too much. Because people were making, like, this is also when, so phase 2 to me, I think is probably people's least favorite phase. And they have some people in there that like it, but I think it's because the anticipation, and I think Marvel was getting used to not giving people too much. Like at this point, everybody was Marvel then gets to that part where it's like, I gotta hit this up now. So UMBC, my alma mater, beat Virginia, 16 seed beating number 1 seed.
Really?
Yeah, I know. It's just something weird happened. No, it was weird. But I think that what happens with something like that is you then get like hype. You start like being like, oh man, we got. Like I anticipate tonight that they're probably gonna lose, but it's gonna be also a lot of anxiety, and they're gonna be going like trying to do too much because you're trying to relive that moment before. And I feel like phase 2 was a little bit that way, but mostly with the marketing. And so I think after this phase, Marvel learned that listen, we're not gonna give too much away in the trailers. We're also gonna start cutting those trailers a little bit differently. So that people can't figure things out. Because with Iron Man 3, people were making up whole stories about what was going to happen. Like people were trying to say that Tony's after credit scene of Iron Man 3 is going to be Tony Stark going into space to meet the Guardians of the Galaxy. Like there was a whole big rumor and things going on there. And then a dude from Latino Review had a whole breakdown of all the different armors and what they were called, and we didn't really get any of that in the film. And so I think a lot of people had expectations that weren't met. And that's what happened with that. And so Marvel starts finding in phase 2 that they don't have any. They find out that they're competition to themselves. They have no equal. So they're now battling their own anticipation for their own films. Expectation for their own
films. That's something that we can really also commend Marvel for, is that they never let this fan speculation. They have a plan and they're sticking to the fucking plan. I think too often we've seen people that didn't have plans. This actually famously happened on Lost, where they would actually be reading the message boards and like, how should the story wrap up? They've got a plan. And what they've run into is people trying to fantasy book in their own head because, like you said, the anticipation gets so strong that if it doesn't fit the preconceived idea of what I thought this movie should be, it's not good or not right, or they did things that Marvel did wrong or balls dropped. Like, no. They're telling their story, asshole. They're not telling your story. It doesn't make them wrong. It makes you a hater. And so,
yeah,
I think that while you're right, the voices around Marvel got louder. It became clearer and clearer that Marvel was like, we're going to do what we're going to do on our clock. Fuck you very much.
Yeah, we have our plan. We're not gonna let outside forces dictate our plan. And I think that was a smart thing. Going real quick back to the Marvel's Avengers, a couple of things that really I loved about that movie, and I think we were seeing things that we didn't think we would see. It's just the way they did certain comic panels. One, the I'm always angry moment when you get Hulk punching the Leviathan, like, and the way that scene is shot, when you watch it, like he morphs and he punches, like it's straight out of a comic book panel. Like if there's one thing that Joss Whedon did with that is he literally took the comic book panels and put them on screen. My another favorite underrated scene, the time when Iron Man comes down and it uses beam on Cap's shield and he uses it to take out some of the Chitauri. Like it's such a quick scene.
It's that one single shot where you get all the Avengers.
Yeah, it's again something that we had never seen before, and they did it, and you're just like, holy
I had friends who aren't superhero nerds, like who are just film nerds, who are like, I gasped. I'd never seen that shot before.
Yeah, it was an amazing thing to see. So anyway, going back into the rest of the films, we then go to Thor: The Dark World, which I think is probably the least favorite of all the MCU films.
It's the weakest.
The weakest film.
The weakest. It for me, it's just they wanted to do what Ragnarok did and take the story off of Earth to make it stronger. Which, yay, good idea, but ooh, you took us to a place that's poorly lit and like doesn't have a very recognizable, identifiable villain, and I don't know. It just felt messy.
It was a little bit messy, and I also think that they didn't fully commit to that. What you said, like Ragnarok took us completely off of Earth. Thor: The Dark World really didn't, because the final battle, while they do go through the different realms, it's really still set on Earth. And
yeah, but
so,
the majority of the film, I'm saying, is
right.
Asgard and the other realms.
Right. So it's like, and so in this movie, we have Frigga dies. We also get another Infinity Stone, the Ether, in here. I believe the
Power Stone.
I thought the Power Stone comes in. Was it?
The Ether is the Power Stone, isn't it?
No, the Ether is the Reality Stone. I thought I had this written down. I'm pretty sure it's the Ether is reality. Power is the Novacone one from Guardians of the Galaxy.
All right.
So, and they confirm it's a Infinity Stone in the after credit scene when they take it to the Collector. And so, cause they and then they also confirm that the Tesseract is another stone. They don't say which one, but they had already kept the stone from the Tesseract when from Avengers 1. They confirmed that the Asgardians were keeping it, and they didn't want to keep two of the Infinity Stones in one location. So another thing, too, I want to say in Thor, the first Thor movie, I think is when we get the first look at an Infinity Gauntlet. It turns out that it's going to be fake. They revealed it's fake. Which I love how they did that. I love how they cleaned it up, though.
Yep.
Because I don't think it was probably supposed to be fake originally, but they figured out a better way to do it, and they're like, oh, no, we're going to make it fake. It's fine. And you know what? It works. Worked out. And I didn't even know this, but apparently the one that was in Thor was a right-handed one, and the one in that Thanos puts on at the end of Age of Ultron is a left-handed one. I was like, oh, so it really was fake. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Huh, not bad. Not bad. We then get one of the movies I think people still to this day, and I had mixed feelings about people loving this movie so much, not because it's not great. I love Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Part of me feels like a lot of people who say they love this film so much and put it number one, even to this day, do it because they think that it's not a superhero film. And so
I do it because it's my favorite superhero film.
Right. But I'm just saying that I think they do it because they think that it's that weird thing that people feel like they need to be tricked out of not believing things are superhero films. And again, I'm not saying this is Marvel's fault or anything like that. I hate those people. Like,
no, I see what you're saying, but I think for those people, this was the movie that opened up what a superhero film could be.
Yes, I can agree with that.
I think it's the recognition, and this was the open and larger acknowledgement that, and this is why it's my number one MCU film, is because the world was forced to acknowledge that comic book doesn't mean one thing.
Yes.
The comic book can span these different genres, that there are different types of comic books, and Winter Soldier is Flight of the Condor, like political drama, fucking spy thriller with comic book, with Captain America and Black Widow and Winter Soldier, and characters who, while this story it's basically a Bourne movie, which would be pretty entertaining, but because we've got, in Bucky's case, 2 movies, in Cap's case, 3 movies, in Natasha's case, I think 4 at this point, of recognition with these characters, everything matters more. Everything has more weight. You're able to shrug off that exposition of why should I care about these characters and jump right into, oh God, don't hurt my favorites.
This movie does so much. So we didn't mention this. We're going to do this, we'll do TV later on, but the previous fall, they introduced Marvel's Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. And so what happens in Winter Soldier, and again, they brought in Anthony and Joe Russo, I believe were doing Community before this. So they brought in 2 TV guys to do Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And they basically reveal that Hydra has infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. this entire time. You get the introduction of Sam Wilson. We get, again, more Cap. We get Bucky coming back from the dead at the Winter Soldier. You get introduction of Sharon Carter. It's just, like I said, it's one of those weird things where people say it's not a superhero film, but I'm watching this film going, this is so superhero. Like, the fights are superhero. Like, I went back and watched that scene of Cap. One in the elevator, where he fights the elevator. But to me, that's not even my favorite part. My favorite part is when he jumps out of the elevator on his shield and lands on his shield. Because again, people are like, how did he do that? He's not vibranium, motherfuckers.
Vibranium, nigga. Next question.
He absorbs vibrations. That's how he was able to survive. But then he takes down a shield Quinjet in just such a Cap fucking way. And you're just like...
The scene of this movie is... Because if we remember First Avenger, they definitely downplayed like the psychotic nature of the shield. And we're like, okay, so the shield's kind of... Okay. The opening scene of Winter Soldier is this motherfucker taking a boat. Did he have where's his chute? He didn't have one.
Yo, that is still... Yo, yeah... That's another one. Because you know what is also great about it is the beginning of it is it's Natasha joking Steve about not dating.
No, the beginning of it is him passing fucking Sam on your left.
Oh yeah, right. And so when he jumped out of the seat, he's like, "Wait, did he have a suit?" No, he didn't.
He never did. Like, yeah, but he takes that boat with the quickness, but like turning corners, throwing that fucking shield. You're like, oh, the shield got done.
Well, here's the other thing too. It was again because they do this every time. They upgrade their characters, so he couldn't really fight in First Avenger, or really even he could fight a little bit, but not like he does in this film. And you realize that it was like 2 years had passed between the end of the Avengers and Winter Soldier, and Cap has been clearly fucking training. And so in Avengers, remember, he put a chute on to jump out of the plane. Now, granted, he was, not jumping in the water.
Not jumping in the water.
Right, not jumping in the water. Here, it's like, no, just jumps out. And just like, what the fuck? He's not, it's like, it's simple. They're not even like Natasha and him are doing, you can tell they have been working together for a while because they're literally, when she gets down to the bottom, she's still talking to him about dating. It's like, can we not do this right now? And it's just, but it's everything, man. You get all this stuff in here. You get Zola, and it's just, it's so comic booky. So when I get angry when I hear people say, well, it's not even like, comic book. I'm like, fuck you. This is a comic book. This is the comic book. Like, this is what this is. Like, this is fucking amazing. And it redefined, it not only showed you, again, what comic movies can be, and again, showing that Marvel is, again, pushing the envelope, but then it also, showed that, that Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show, guys, I think they're trying to do something here. 5 years later, still one of the most amazing shows on fucking TV. And then, so that's April of 2014. So then Marvel starts showing off. Now, I remember when they first announced they were going to do Guardians of the Galaxy, and I was just like, who?
Okay. So right now it's 2018. We're recording this in March. I will die believing Kevin Feige agreed to do Guardians over a drunken bet. I'll bet I can make them watch a fucking talking raccoon in a tree. Fuck you, Kevin. Stop drinking. Fuck me. All right, motherfucker. What? I'm gonna put Howard the fucking Duck in the motherfucker.
Now you're really drunk. Kevin, right, we need to have a talk.
Kevin's done for the night.
Yeah,
cutting off Kevin. He woke up like, that's why I write shit down when I go to sleep.
They got the guy who directed Slither, James Gunn. You're just like, all right. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, I guess. Okay, we're gonna try that. Who the fuck are the Guardians of the Galaxy? Rocket Raccoon? A talking tree that only says, I am Groot? What?
We're not even doing, like, vintage Guardians.
No.
We're doing, like, the modern incarnation fuck-up Guardians. All right.
It worked.
Oh, no one thought it wasn't going to work.
Oh, you know what? No, let's not say no one thought.
At this point, I was like, fuck
No.
yeah.
Look, I'm fully bought in, so I knew it wasn't going to fail. But I do know that this was a lot of talk of the Guardians of the Galaxy might be Marvel's first flop. It might be the first one that doesn't make it. If you take out Deadpool, Guardians of the Galaxy Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 grossed more than every single X-Men film ever made. If you told 10-year-old me that, I would have laughed in your goddamn face. Guardians of the Galaxy made more money. Volume 1 made more money than the Justice League film. What the fuck? Studios are in full panic at this point. $773 million. Made a new franchise. Introduced us to Marvel Cosmic. Got Glenn fucking Close to not only be in the film, but basically be like, yo, I want to do more. I can't stress this enough. Before this point, before all the MCU, and even before, like, it started happening a little bit better with when you got Blade, stuff like that. Before then, people didn't want to touch fucking superhero films.
Nigga, Robert Redford is the uncredited bad guy of Winter Soldier. Fuck this, man.
Here's another thing, too, a little known fact about Guardians of the Galaxy. They went way over budget. The budget for that film would end up being, and they didn't reveal it until like a year later.
What's it when we find out?
Like, yeah, like we found it like January of the next year. That they went to $230 million. Again, they go all in. This is our plan. This is what we're going to do. Fuck it. We're going to make it work. And here's the thing. Kevin Feige is very involved in this. I remember seeing an interview before where James Gunn was talking about the process of them going through this. And he had, they didn't want to say it with Thanos, but you could tell they were talking about Thanos' chair, his throne. And I think Gunn wanted to put rockets on it, and Feige was like, no, it just hovers there. Little lights that hover. That's it. We don't put rockets on it. We don't make it. Like, Feige is a huge nerd. He's very, very involved in this shit. He knows how this stuff works. He is the mastermind behind this. When you pay this man whatever the fuck he needs.
Yeah. Because Feige knows that no matter how over a budget you are, the bottom line will benefit from us biting the bullet, tightening our belts, and paying the money.
Guardians of the Galaxy introduced another Infinity Stone, the Power Stone.
And taught us they put a Celestial on screen, dog.
Yep. Gave us the Celestials. And we're like, what the fuck are we doing here? Are we really doing this?
On the Searcher. Fucking. Nah.
Following the year, Joss Whedon returns, and we get Avengers: Age of Ultron. I'm sorry, guys. I still like Age of Ultron. Maybe not better than some of the other films, but it's not a bad film. People keep saying it's a bad film. I don't think it's a bad film, guys.
No.
It's not a bad film at all. Again, I think it goes back to anticipation and people's expectations. And people had certain things that they didn't like about a film. But see, this is another thing that I think happens during the MCU that started happening in filming in general, which is people start, we've gotten from people, like, it used to be that when you didn't like a film or you didn't like something in the film, you used to be like, you still have like, okay, it's still fine. I still enjoy myself and everything like that. We now got into the thing with Marvel Studios films, and it permeates with everything else, because it's happened with DC films, it's happened with Fox films. Like, people start, like, put it this way. I think that Logan is a bad X-Men film. I'm never going to say it's a bad film, because it's not a bad film. I think people at this point have started to confuse their personal feelings for overall quality of a film. And so Age of Ultron is not a bad film. It's another part of the story. It's a part of the story that makes sense, where you have, Tony and you introduce us to Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. And Tony, you see another part of Tony's fears, because I think again, less of Phase 3. I think the end of Phase 2 in Phase 3 to start becoming more Tony and Steve's story, but up to this point, it's really about Tony and Tony's journey in these phases. And in Age of Ultron's a lot of that, Tony's mistakes, and you see the way Tony is, where when Tony believes something, he overcompensates with his inventions and with his ideas, and he's a fixer, and that can lead us into some serious problems later on down the line. So we get.
I love the Age of Ultron, how it advances every plot that we have so far.
Yeah.
It involved to show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. like they were recouping those helicarriers for what? We see that in the third act. We get to see what happened when the scepter was stolen. We got to see, like you said, Tony's fears made flesh by creating Ultron. And I think something that they captured about Tony in this film that's true to the comics that I think will carry through and inform what happens in Infinity War is that Tony's a tinkerer. Reed Richards often says that he's the smartest man alive, but Tony gets more done because Tony works multiple problems from multiple angles at all time. Reed gets focused on one thing, completes it, and moves on to the next. Tony's always doing 14 different things. If you read where I think Infinity War is taking a lot from Time Runs Out and kind of Jonathan Hickman's Avengers run, you get to see him balancing all these different plates, and you ask yourself how or why, but that's just how Tony is. But
it's even at one point in that run, the rest of T'Challa and Reno and them like, where's Tony at? Tony has a plan. We know he's working on something because that's what Tony always does. Mm-hmm. He's always tinkering on something. Yeah. We also get the confirmation, because there's been a lot of speculation up to this point, that Loki's scepter was also another Infinity Stone, and we revealed that inside of it was another Infinity Stone. We get the creation of Vision from Ultron. Created a new body. He was trying to put himself into that new body, made out of vibranium, because he also reveals that one of my favorite lines in the movie, the most versatile material on the planet, and they made a frisbee out of it. Talking about vibranium and what they did with making a shield, a vibranium shield, and we later see that on again in by Panther. Like, yeah, it's unreal what Western civilization has done with vibranium compared to what could actually be done with vibranium. My biggest problem with Age of Ultron, and I understand why they did it, is the killing of Quicksilver.
Yeah, they had to. But guess what? We got a whole bunch of stones that move a whole bunch of things like time and reality. So I'm not saying he's showing up in April, but I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, right. Ain't nothing but hey. Look,
there have been set photos that show that things are going to be changed.
Well, we've already know that death is not an obstacle. It's just an obstacle to overcome in the MCU. So we've already established that. I mean, Phil Coulson took a scepter to the chest, and it's been around for 5 years. So
heroes don't die; they just smell that way.
Right. So, like I said, I enjoyed Ultron for what it was, and I enjoyed that. Like I said, again, another thing that I think has been a staple of these films are they always show their heroes working together. They always show their heroes working together. And something that, again, we haven't really seen a lot in these other films. And again, it's something that these films kept missing. We cap off Phase 2 with, again, I feel like Phase 2 was an experimental phase. And it was Marvel basically saying, let's try some different things out there. So they had put Ant-Man on hold for Edgar Wright. And it just didn't work out. So they get Peyton Reed to direct Ant-Man. And again, this is the one where I'm like, I know it won't be bad, but I'm not sure how much money you're going to make off of a fucking Ant-Man film. Like, it is Ant-Man. And I will say that I think Ant-Man is one of their first truly brilliant fucking marketing campaigns. This is where, I don't know if they changed if they sat down and was like, we're starting with Ant-Man, we're going to do this. The marketing campaign for Ant-Man was phenomenal. From the many little Ant-Man billboards they put around at bus stops that people could find, to putting like images of like Cap shield and Iron Man, stuff like that, with a little Ant-Man on the shoulder and posters and things like that. Like they cast Paul Rudd, they went with Scott Lang, they got Michael Douglas as fucking Hank Pym. Again,
Michelle
you're getting
Pfeiffer apparently is Jan.
yeah, like they're getting these talents, you know. Evangeline Lilly for Hope, or is it Hope? Yeah, Hope. Yeah, Hope. And it's just like, you know, look, man, Ant-Man was good.
Ant-Man was great. Ant-Man was a heist movie. Ant-Man didn't quote unquote feel like a superhero movie. It didn't. The crossover was Falcon,
which again was another little subtle thing there. You're like, wow, they put an Avenger in Ant-Man. Like, what the fuck? Because the end of Age of Ultron is a new team, right? It's what was the team? It's Cap, Black Widow, Scarlet Witch, and
Falcon and War Machine.
Falcon and War Machine, right? I still do wish also in that they let Cap say Avengers Assemble, and I really hope.
Has anyone said it yet?
No, so I'm really hoping that it happens in Infinity War.
Act 3 fucking
It's gotta get Avengers Assemble. You gotta give it to us, man. If they do, I'm gonna fucking cry in the theater, yo. I'm gonna fucking cry. I'm telling you guys fucking now, tears are gonna come down my fucking face. I'm crying if we get Avengers Assemble in Infinity War. But yeah, Ant-Man, man. It's like they did fucking Ant-Man. And it's been a while since a film from Marvel made, you know, less than like $700 million or $600 million. But for fucking Ant-Man, it also had the smallest budget. They only paid $120 million for it. Made like $500 million off of it. And it worked. And they got good reviews for it.
Yeah.
And that ended phase 2. And you're like, okay, they had some stumbles here and there. But for the most part, they introduced three big things. Captain America, the Winter Soldier, gave us the idea that you could do different genre films with superhero films. Guardians of the Galaxy was like, yo, they can do cosmic Marvel, and they can take literally characters nobody's heard of and turn them into hits. And then Ant-Man was literally, you can take, no pun intended, the smallest Avengers and make them hits. And then we came to phase 3. And let me just tell you something right now, guys. Right now, phase 3 is a heat check.
Yo, if phase 2 was like the test lab, phase 3 is like, here is what we have created.
Phase 3 has been amazing. You start with Captain America Civil War, and it feels so earned. They take the Civil War story from the comics and do it better by giving you a real... And you see how it's been building up. Because you had the conversation between Tony and Steve in Age of Ultron. You got it there. And you bring back Bucky. You introduce us to Black Panther for the first time. Chadwick Boseman.
Say goodbye to Peggy.
Say goodbye to Peggy. You get an update with Falcon's wings and everything like that, and it's like everything becomes amazing. Like that opening scene with them taking on the soldiers and their teamwork. It's like that's more teamwork in the opening of this film than all of the X-Men films put together. It's not even. It's like it's just reality. I've always seen people like it's so weird, and this is what happens with this. Like, because sometimes I find myself not jumping into the debates over Civil War, not bad debates like people, the idiots who try to say that it doesn't look good or it's not a good film. I'm talking about the debates where people are like literally doing the debate between Iron Man and Steve and who's right and who's wrong. And the reason why I stopped becoming involved in it, and I was like, that was the purpose. The purpose of Civil War was to get to, you can see that both sides had points and get people talking. And it does that. Like, you have legit debates over, was Steve right? Was Tony right? Like, who was right and wrong in this one? I mean, Tony was the feds, but Steve should have told him that his best friend killed his parents. It's just like, it's heavy. It's real. And you get the
villain
split.
Isn't something you can punch. It's the villain of Civil War is distrust.
Right. Zemo won.
Zemo won.
Zemo is the first villain in the MCU to truly fucking win.
And lived.
We also find in the year before Civil War came out that Sony had enough and decided to strike a deal with Marvel.
No. I would like to rephrase that. What happened was Chris and Devon told you, motherfucker. So did we not?
I mean, since Avengers, so going back all the way to Phase 1 in Avengers, there's always been talks between Sony and Marvel. Marvel wanted to put Oscorp Towers in the background of Avengers, and it just didn't work out in time. Like the effects were already done; it was too late involved. Unlike Fox, the relationship between Sony and Marvel Studios had always been kind of nice. Like Sony wanted more they gave back the Spider-Man animated rights to hold on to readjust the contract on the live action movie rights. So we have been saying for years that there's going to be a deal. There's going to be one between Sony and Marvel because like they actually have a cordial relationship. The Fox one, we always said that long shot Disney gonna have to buy Fox, and holy shit, it might be happening. But so they strike a deal to do a whole new Spider-Man trilogy in the MCU. Marvel can put Spider-Man in these MCU films with Sony's permission, of course, and Marvel would produce a film. Sony would produce a film, even though they give basically Feige total creative control because, yes. So, Spider-Man makes his first live-action appearance in the MCU in Civil War. And immediately, we're all like, this is where Spidey belongs.
He's home.
Spider-Man comes home.
It's the happiest I've been in a movie theater. When that title card smash cut to Queens, I think I squealed. Look, man, and we can say, they've done great. These other characters, they didn't need Spider-Man. He's the most popular superhero on the planet, most recognizable superhero on the planet, and there's a reason why all these movies, all the Marvel formula, if you will, ties back to with great power. Comes great responsibility. The inciting moment of Civil War is Act 3 of Age of Ultron.
Oh, fuck. You know what I just realized?
What?
So Marvel decided they're not, because we don't need to. You don't need to tell the story of Spider-Man again and see Uncle Ben die again, right? Tony's going to be the new Uncle Ben, and Peter's going to watch him die.
They don't need to, probably, but like they don't. The thing is, they don't need.
They don't need to do it. I'm just saying it's gonna happen.
But I think Tony's death can have more impact than just on Peter.
Oh no, it's gonna be an MCU wide thing because he's the connective tissue of.
Well, I've already said this. I guess another show we did, but I think that they're restructuring the new Trinity to be Captain Marvel to play Captain America, the soldier at a time.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be Black Panther to play Iron Man, the leader, tech-based hero whose world informs kind of the look and feel of the Marvel going forward. And then Peter Parker is going to be Thor, the boy who would become king, who's constantly trying to prove himself.
Mm-hmm.
And this moment of Peter and Tony on the bed in Civil War probably is going to be the most important Marvel moment going forward for a long time.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about some more of those in a second. But I think that with Civil War was Marvel's announcement that not only was our big idea for Infinity War going to come true, we've already planned what's next, and you guys aren't fucking ready for it.
Nope. After Civil War, Doctor fucking Strange, which I also like to just announce that also made more money than Justice League. Here's how incredible Doctor Strange is. It was going in with and again, I think again going with the marketing marketing and PR department of Marvel, they helped lessen this. They were going into Doctor Strange with some whitewashing controversy, with Tilda Swinton being cast as the Ancient One. I think that they were able to do what most films that have whitewashing controversies don't do, which is succeed. Because the director basically came out and said, hey, listen, our bad. We didn't want to go this way, because the same thing happened when they did Iron Man 3 and they did The Mandarin. They were very, very aware.
With Ben bleeping Kingsley, by the way.
Yeah. They were very, very aware of the stereotypes and the problematic nature of some of these characters from their origins. And so sometimes they overcompensate. And so they did that with the Ancient One. And he came out, and Scott Derrickson came out and said, oh, listen, my bad. We were trying not to be offensive, and we missed the mark. We're sorry about that. And I hope to do better in the future. It's like, again, just looking at what Marvel does and how they handle things. They do the things that other studios should do and don't, and end up failing because of it. It's like, all you had to do is say, we are sorry for this. We messed up. We're going to do better in the future. People were like, oh, yeah, cool. We're going to watch the film then. All right, you're good. You're good. That's all it was. And Doctor Strange was a fucking trip.
Yo, Doctor Strange is one of my favorite Marvel movies because, and I've talked about this on this network and other places, they didn't do the third act the way they normally do it. Normally it is, hey, we're going to blow up a bunch of shit. Doctor Strange said, what if we just invert it? What do you mean? What if we rebuild a bunch of shit in our third act? Well, how do you mean? And then they did it.
Dormammu, I came to bargain. What is this?
No, not even that, but literally we get the image of the city being repaired.
Yeah. Yep.
As opposed to a city being destroyed. It's such a small, subtle shift, but it's such a thematic. It's basically Marvel doing the big nuts dance in center court.
Yes.
We do what we want, motherfucker. Like, that's what it was.
Mm-hmm. We also get the 5th of the 6 Infinity Stones when it's revealed that the Agamotto is the time gem. And, yeah, we'll be going more into the Infinity Stones, stuff like that, when we do our Thanos and Infinity.
The differences between the MCU and the accepted actual.
Yes. We will be doing that. So that means the only stone we do not know of and do not know where it's at is the Soul Stone. But clearly it gets revealed in Infinity War because the I don't know if you saw the tweet from the Russo brothers. It was hashtag Where's the Soul Stone, and I'm like, you fucking assholes, you guys are some bastards. So yeah, Doctor Strange. I mean it gets into, and so not only that, but I think Doctor Strange and Ant-Man both did something that, again, this could affect this deal that comes out. They kind of introduces to other dimensions.
Yep.
In a kind of a multiverse theory in this universe, because when Ant-Man goes super small, and we realize that Janet is missing, so we know that we're going to be finding Janet in this next Ant-Man movie. We're going to be dealing with that, and it's kind of similar to what we saw with Doctor Strange going through these different dimensions and opening these different portals. Also tying into Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. of the way that Ghost Rider traveled was very similar to the way that Doctor Strange travels. And we do know that the Darkhold was also another one of those books that's supposed to be in the library that the Ancient One had. So it's just like they do these subtle tie-ins here and to a larger world, but at the same time telling it's a very personal story. It's a very small story, but still shows us a larger world. It takes up to right up to last year where Marvel started doing 3 films in a year. First we get Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which then gives us Ego the Living Fucking Planet. Apparently I read that that Fox had Ego the Living Planet, and they switched out. They got Ego when they let Fox change the power set, I think, of Teenage Negasonic Warrior. Yeah, so they changed her power set, and they were able to get Ego the Living Planet. And we got Ego the Living Fucking Planet on screen
with the whole face and everything.
With the face and everything, like, what the fuck are we doing, guys? We got Eagle Living Planet, and then we also got the original Guardians of the Galaxy. They're showing off.
High stepping to the end zone.
Not to be undone, we then get Spider-Man Homecoming, which
Oh God. Oh man.
Sony, you're not.
It's a perfect. It's Marvel. It's perfect. It's perfect. Perfect.
So the opening of the film, it's good. Like you're like, oh, okay, cool. We're getting it. They tie it into when the Avengers happened and everything's going on there. But that scene right there in the first like 5 minutes when it cuts from Michael Keaton to them, because they start the film with the Sony title card. You're like, oh, okay, it's still a Sony film. Not going to put the Marvel title card and stuff like there. And they cut to playing the original Spider-Man theme with the Marvel Studios title card. Dude, at least once a week I watch that myself. I won't lie. I just watch it because it gives me goosebumps. I'm watching it in the theater during my screener, and I literally am getting... I wanted to clap at that moment because it's like, this is a studio that gets it. That is such a subtle thing to do, because who would think to do that? Who would think to change their music, opening music, to be the opening music from the Spider-Man TV show? To put that theme in there while you're running the Marvel Studios. Like, I said, at that moment, Sony lost Spider-Man, and they just don't know it yet. Because what are you going to fucking do? You can't go back. We can't go back. You're letting them put Peter in Infinity War? Are you guys fucking stupid? What are you guys doing? Like, you do realize you're never going to be able to get him back, right? What? Oh, okay. All right. Fucking amazing, right?
I'm still pulling it off.
They gave us scenes straight out of the book. They gave us a villain, a Spider-Man villain we hadn't seen before. They did all the things that people were wondering before this film came out. I was like, why? Oh no, another 6 Spider-Man film in 16 years, 7 Spider-Man film in 16 years. Like, why are we doing this? 6 Spider-Man film in 16 years. Why are we doing this? Blah blah blah. We don't need this right now. Then you see Homecoming, you're like, oh my god, they did it completely different. We had never gotten a teenage Spider-Man before, like a legit teenager,
high school Spidey,
truly high school Spider-Man, with all the high school Spider-Man problems. We had never seen a villain like everybody keeps harping on how good, Alfred Molina is as Dr. Ock, and he was, but like that was so long ago. Michael Keaton as Toomes was truly frightening. That scene in the car where he basically figures out that Peter's is Spider-Man, and he's basically like, I'll kill you and your entire family. Don't mess with me, kid. And then Peter has to make the decision to either go into the dance or go be the hero he knows he is. Knowing that Tony has already taken the suit from him. Tony has said, you're not a hero. You shouldn't do this. I rushed you too far. I did too much. He goes out and does it anyway. Showing that he's a fucking hero. It's like you said, it's the Thor moment. Like when Odin takes Thor's powers and tells him you need to humble yourself. Tony took his suit. And Peter proves it. And then in the end, he turns down coming out and being part of the Avengers and putting the suit on and stuff. Like it was so Spider-Man. It was so Spider-Man. And you're like, oh shit, this is what I've been missing all this time. And this is where I look at, again, whether they're in the MCU, and I know I have problems with that, or whether they're out, I don't care. When if this deal goes through and Marvel Studios can make their own X-Men film, guys. And then the last 2 films that we've already kind of talked about, we've talked enough about these. Thor Ragnarok, which is just fucking phenomenal. And for all the talk about how, the comedy in this film, I think people really just go out of their way to overlook how much devastating shit happened there. Asgard gets destroyed. Like, a lot of people die in this fucking film.
Thor's dad dies in front of him.
The Warriors 3 die. Horrible
Badly.
deaths. Terrible deaths. Thank God Lady Sif was somewhere else. Thank God Jamie Alexander had a scheduling conflict, because she would have been dead too. You know? They give us Valkyrie. They give us Hulk. They give us a little bit of the Planet Hulk storyline. We get a moving forward of the relationship between Loki and his brother Thor. We get Thor getting the Odin Force. You know, like losing the hammer. Amazing. And I'm not even gonna go into this. Like, Black Panther, guys. Once again hitting $1 billion. And again, we say about $1 billion, but again, the reason why other studios are shook, all the films last year that Marvel Studios made over $840 million. Every single one of them. Every single one of them. They're at the point now where at any point they can make $1 billion. Black Panther made $1 billion fucking dollars. They're about to put out Infinity War, which everybody was questioning whether, you know, Infinity War would make as much money as Black Panther, and I was like, you guys are fucking crazy. Of course it is. It beat Black Panther's pre-sale record in 6 hours. They're putting it all together.
The bastard Russos are tweeting out hashtag where's the Soul Stone. Super rude.
Thanos in the armor. Well, let's do this. Let's talk about this trailer, yo.
Okay, so I always preach Radio Dark, and I always preach, hey, watch it when we watch it. I watched this trailer 5 times. My God.
We're gonna get the backstory on Gamora, because you get that scene with you see it's Thanos getting the young Gamora when he's about to slaughter the rest of her planet. I'm gonna tell you right now, I think a lot of those scenes they've edited out some of the gems in the Infinity Gauntlet, because I'm pretty sure at some point he has to get the Reality Stone from somewhere. You know, so he probably has that if he gets to Earth already. You're getting the two assholes meet each other, Star-Lord and Iron Man. It's just little things in there, like when Peter swings down off the bridge and he skims along the water. And I'm just like, this is gonna be so good. Cap and showing up in Wakanda with his team, and Io giving Black Widow that look of "I'll still fuck you up."
Oh yeah.
You know, what I love about this is I have my theories. I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm scared for everyone. There's a ton of people that weren't shown in this trailer that we know are in this fucking movie. I just, this is literally 10 years of the MCU coming together. And I can't fucking wait for this shit, man. I can't fucking wait. The bleeding edge technology, the bleeding edge suit, you know, Peter putting the Iron Spidey suit on and having that. I love the scene at the end with him saying, "Hi, I'm Peter, Doctor Strange. Oh, we're using our made up names. I'm Spider-Man."
Slap little smart mouth ass Peter.
Right. And I'm like, no, he really is a doctor, and his last name is Strange. He really is Doctor Strange, you asshole. Yeah, man, it's just I can't wait for this, man. Like I remember when we first saw Thanos, some people were like, some critics who didn't really know about this were like wondering why he was so big and why they used CGI for some parts. And I'm like, because this is how you're supposed to have your fucking villain like this. Thanos should look like this because this is what Thanos is. He's a Titan. He's a mad Titan. He's basically a fucking god. You need this. This is the way. This is the size that Apocalypse was supposed to fucking be. Not the same size as Wolverine. It's like, I can't fucking wait, man. We got the Black Order, who, by the way, I found out because I was like, yo, we don't know who's playing the Black Order. And apparently Feige's keeping that close to the vest. He's like, oh, you might recognize some of the
name on the poster, right?
Huh?
Saw that name on that poster.
Peter Dinklage is there, so I'm pretty sure he is.
Ebony Maw.
He is?
Whose voice matters most for the Black Order?
Yeah. Well, yes, but I've also heard...
his power is manipulation through...
Yes, true.
Through speaking of them. That's why I say that.
Well, so here's the other thing, too. I've also heard that Mark Hamill might have a role, too.
I wouldn't doubt it.
So, I'm thinking
Corvus
that...
Glaive.
Huh? Yeah.
Or can you hear him doing Corvus Glaive?
Oh, shit. I didn't want that one scene from Infinity, where he shows up at the court of the Inhumans. It's basically, it has his followers slit their own throats like, yo, we welcome death. What's up?
You can't threaten me with something I desire.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Mark Hamill's Glaive would, ooh. Oh, man, yo. I love the fact that the Black Order, it probably has a significant role in this film, but they're keeping them kind of close enough. Like, you get that one shot of them all together surrounding Loki.
Now, I'm about to say surrounding Loki, which is so I think they're going to kill Loki and make Thor watch.
Yes. Which again, going off of what happened in Thor Ragnarok, it makes sense because Loki came, like Loki's kind of made and this is even like Loki in the comics, he's made kind of a redemption arc. So it makes sense because even we saw that in the first teaser, Loki showing the because we know why they're there because Loki took the Tesseract, so he gives the Tesseract up to save his brother, and then is killed because remember, Loki made the first original deal with Thanos and didn't come through, and Thanos does not like failure, and does not like being betrayed, so by Loki, that time's coming. Yeah, so that's Infinity War. And that trailer, I'm all in on that shit. Then after that, we get a little movie called Ant-Man and the Wasp, which I think people are going to be sleeping on, but I'm so in.
And then
Captain Marvel, which we're kind of... They're going to reveal that Nick Fury was a Skrull.
Always has been a Skrull. And they built the shield to defend against Thanos so that the Skrulls can then take over.
And that will start us off into going into our secret invasion run in Phase 4. Well, I think Avengers 4 does end up in Phase 3. So we'll see when Avengers 4... what happens in Avengers 4, which I think, we do know some of these characters are coming back, but we also know that they're kind of back in time, which I think involves probably the time gem or something going on with that, or maybe reality gem, so we'll see. But I definitely think Phase 4, which only right now has Spider-Man Homecoming 2 and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I definitely think Phase 4 involves Secret Invasion. Because you're bringing in the Skrulls, and boy, they reveal Nick Fury as a Skrull, man, that's gonna hurt my heart.
Always has been, always will be, baby. Especially if it's these Skrulls that only change after they die. Yeah, baby. Here for it.
It's gonna be so good. I'm really excited about Captain Marvel. I can't wait to see what they do with that. Like, that's gonna be So that's all four. That's the 3 phases we have of Marvel so far. With a kind of look forward to the phase 4. Damn, it took us 2 hours, but we went through all of the MCU character corner here with this. Like I said, the MCU, man, it has been planned through, and it's something that these other studios just they can't keep up because I don't think they don't think they had it blindsided them. Like I said, when you go through and look at what these films did, you can see why other studios are playing catch up. This took 10 years of planning and 10 years of, even when you fail, even when things are not going your way, sticking to the plan, and that's not something that Hollywood usually does. And so what Marvel Studios has done and become a powerhouse, a franchise that makes $15 billion over 10 years, and all they do is make these kind of films, it's unheard of. And it's why so many, we talk about comic book films, they're not the only ones that try to make cinematic universes, but all these other universes have failed. Why? Because of this. They don't plan. They don't have that vision, and it just doesn't work out for them. And yeah, man, this is why the MCU is so good. This is why when people go, "Oh, you just stand for the MCU," yeah, you goddamn right I do. Why don't you?
They stand for us first,
right?
They loved us.
I'm gonna love the people that love me. They love us. They make stumbles here and there, but man, when it comes to taking the pages off of a comic book and putting them on screen, that's what the Marvel Studios. They have people that are giant nerds. They embrace them. Like I remember when X-Men first came out, it was a big deal when big news story when they were talking about how Hugh Jackman had to sneak comic books on set to read them because Bryan Singer didn't want him to look at the comics. He didn't want that to taint his vision. Compare that to what we see with Marvel Studios. When Brie Larson got picked as got cast as Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, she did it. Her Instagram post had a bunch of Captain Marvel books she was reading for her research. That's the difference, guys. One embraces the source material, the others don't. And that's what we want. I want you to tell your own story, massage it, change the details if you need to, adapt it. You got to make those changes. I understand that. But do the source right. Do the source justice. They made changes. Hell, they didn't have Hank Pym create Ultron. They had Tony Stark create Ultron. Now, granted, they did use, it was an old S.H.I.E.L.D. program. It probably means Hank Pym did probably have some hand in some of the early Ultron stuff. But at the same time, the way they changed the story, it made sense. You use a character that like Iron Man, and they kind of had the same kind of relationship. We had the same deals, the same issues there. Like it worked. I don't know, man. Like it's been amazing to watch over the 10 years. Amazing. They have turned the Avengers into the top selling comic franchise over all the DC characters, over all the X-Men characters, or Fantastic Four, and only until recently over Spider-Man. Good luck to everybody else, man.
All right, folks. Like I said, thank you guys very much for sticking around. If you listen to the whole thing, hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, like I said before, if you want to hear more, subscribe to the Character Corner podcast. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Google. We're actually on Spotify, so search for Character Corner. You hear us on Spotify. And stay tuned. We got a lot of other cool stuff coming out on the Character Corner podcast. So, and again, we'll try to post some of them every now and then here on this channel. But if you want to get them as soon as they come out, you got to subscribe to the podcast. So again, folks, thank you guys very much, and I will be back soon. Peace.